Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 40th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-hosts Andrew Norman and Jason S. Now, today's topic is the rise after the crumble, rebuilding life inside the program. Andrew, can you tell us what this means to you? Well, you're muted, so you'd have to tell us again.
I'm here. Good to see everybody this morning.
Love you, brother.
Jason, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
The rise from the crumble, man. I mean, a lot of things come to my mind when I hear that phrase, right? We've all survived a near fatal catastrophe in a way, right? Our own hell. And so coming out of that thing is a slow grind, right? I know getting into active addiction was a slow grind, right? It wasn't something that happened overnight. And now that I'm able to look back at that, it's really, really a special process coming out of this thing, right? And it's all our own process, but it's so cool because, we're sitting here on this platform today. We have 12-step programs in our life, and it's one of those things where it brings us together, unity, the rise out of the ashes, right? The phoenix, what do we have in the background there? So it's one of those things that coming out of the depths of hell, right? It's really rebuilding a new foundation for your life and figuring out who you are again, and it's how you do that and how you conduct yourself and how you come out of that is really how you set yourself up for the rest of your life. In the overview, that's kind of my look on, coming out of the ashes, rising from the phoenix. You got to burn this thing completely down to be able to build it back up again. And then just laying that foundation is so important, Jason. You can't build a house on sand, and that foundation work is so important, right? There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of effort that goes into every contractor that needs to, they plot the land out first, and then you dig in the ground out. Like there's a lot of planning and processes that go into getting the subcontractors and all that, right? We got to do that same thing with our recovery. I do, or I'm screwed, because I can always rebuild that house as long as I build that solid foundation. That's the most important thing, is coming out of this thing is building that solid foundation. So that's kind of my outlook on it. What do you think?
I love that, Andrew. Now you, Jason?
The rise from the crumble.
After your cookies crumbled in your addiction.
Sounds like a movie title, or
it could
maybe
be
like
starring us.
Right. Sequel to Dawn of the Dead or something.
Heard it here first.
I don't know. I'd say that, I've risen from the crumble, so to speak, a few times. Maybe the first time I found recovery in 2007, then I had a relapse, and I'll say this is the second time in 2018. And then, at any point in my recovery, I can rebuild it too, and kind of start over and move in a different direction, or maybe like find a different sponsor, start going to some different meetings, or doing different types of service work, and I don't know, that's what it means to me right now.
Cool. And for me, the title of this podcast being Recovery Freedom Rising, I feel like it's the moment where I'm breaking the chains of addiction. Like I felt chained into my addiction for a long time at the end, and those chains were not allowing me really any freedom in my mind. My obsessive insanity thoughts about it, I've said a million times, it was like I would think about the acquisition, I would think about the using, I would use and think about the next using while thinking about the next using, making sure there was enough for the using after that. And like crazy. It was like, like Andrew calls it, using stacked.
It's just layered, man. It's crazy. I never thought about it till you said something like that, Milan, and that's wild. That's a whole nother layer to it.
But so, like, for me, the journey into this program, like, I came into treatment at Options just wanting to be able to be happy straight, and mainly just to be straight, like, I wanted a rock solid way to be able to move forward in life without all that craziness because I was beaten, done over, like skidding to a stop, like I literally feel like I thought about this the other day, my heart stopping means that now my heart's beating in a different way forever. Like it actually had a moment of reset,
Hmm.
and and inside this program,
That's deep. That's deep.
I literally found a freedom inside this program, mentally, spiritually, and even physically, really, if we get down to the addiction part of it.
Yeah.
And it's almost what this podcast is designed to talk about. This very topic here is probably the perfect symbol of what I want to be able to show people. What I like this to me is like anybody out there suffering, had someone call me randomly, had not seen since 2008, telling me the secret of their addiction last night. And it touched my heart so much to now
Beautiful.
be that safe place where she couldn't even tell her family or her partner because she had so much shame around it. And I had like an hour and a bit drive home just talking and telling her, about my experience and, kind of inviting her to learn more about the program through me, right? Like, and I was happy to finally, like, not be the one that people are cringing away from when they see their friend or partner near.
How beautiful is that, Milan? How
Like,
fucking beautiful. How
honestly,
beautiful is that for you? Like that was a therapeutic thing for both of y'all right there. You had emotions that you probably haven't had in a long time with somebody you don't even really know, right? You haven't talked to in a while. And you're just recovering, right? Doing what you do, and then you're making an influence by living the way you live today. And then y'all can both come to, tears and emotions. And man, it's I'm so grateful to be able to feel emotions today. Right. I'm
yeah.
not numbing that shit, right? I'm leaning into like emotions and crying and real men cry. I'll cry today and not even think about it because like that's what real people do, right? I think.
Mhm.
It's not a sign of weakness to cry, right? It's just you're feeling your emotions. So it's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. I love that. I love that, Lauren.
I'm going to start off asking you a question, Andrew.
Mhm.
Then it'll go to Jason, and we'll go the circle that way, guys. Is that all good with everyone?
Of
Sounds
course.
good.
So I'm going to read a little statement here. Miracles do happen, and we're not the only ones who experience healing. Sometimes reconciliation is possible, but not necessarily on schedule of our terms. We practice forgiveness, patience, and acceptance. How has patience and expectations factored into your recovery, Andrew?
Oh wow. There's a lot around that with the patience and expectations. You mean like in relation to myself, the process, my family, the whole thing, just
However,
everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever vein of those two
Run through that. That
factors.
was a deep question. Run through that one more time. I think I
Okay,
need to hear that one more
miracles
time so
do
I can set it
happen.
in.
Miracles do happen, and
Yes,
we're
they
three
do.
of them. And we are
Facts.
not the only ones who experience healing. Sometimes reconciliation is possible, but not necessarily on the schedule of our terms. We practice forgiveness, patience, and acceptance. And how has patience and expectations factored into your recovery?
Wow. What it's doing, yeah, you said the patience is a virtue. It's man, it's tough to learn those spiritual principles you just named right there, right? Learning those things, you can't just read a definition and walk around and act like that definition, right? So, and there's a lot of struggles that I had to go through in order to have those things in my life, right? To be able to live in a way where I used to worry about everything I did because everything I did was wrong. Like I used to break the law constantly from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. I'm running around getting drugs, doing something, stealing something, whatever I was doing, right? In that time, I was using for over 20 years. So I didn't have, I just was doing the wrong shit. So I had shut out the ability to do anything spiritual. You call them spiritual principles or whatever. We got a lot of them. There's over 100 of them. Do you know how many there are, Milan, spiritual principles?
You know what? I've seen so many different numbered lists that I was gonna say guaranteed there's 64. So if you've seen
I
100,
think there's like 120. I think it's over 100. I could be completely wrong, and I'm so
Jason,
sorry.
you know this fact?
Do you know?
Let's say 12.
Well, we could start with 12.
We can say, yeah. So there's just a lot, right? And so, man, my literature at least tells me when I'm actively using drugs, I can't tap into those things, right? I think I am, but I'm not, because I'm living it as if I were that person, right? And I mean that higher power, because we all have to have that, because obviously our best thinking got us here, and so it's how I have to grind through those beginning stages and coming out of this hellhole, man, that I was in. It's my actions that I take. It's the work I put in myself. It's the accountability that I take to myself, right? I got to put it out there, right? If I'm struggling with something, I put it out to the group or my at least my group, and then it holds me accountable to myself. I don't clam up anymore. I don't not talk about it, and then it's in my little garage in my head that's unorganized as hell, right? Like, and I can't even find it when I go back to pick it, right? Like, there's a good analogy about how you store things in your brain is kind of like that neighbor that has that crazy garage that has shit just laying everywhere. It's just unorganized. Well, if that gentleman were to take all that stuff out and box everything up and label everything and put it in there all nice and neat, he can fit a lot more stuff in his garage, and he knows where it is, and he can park his car in there, right? He's never been able to park his car in there before. And so that's kind of what we have to do to our brains, right? Is my shit, I would just, in active addiction, I'm just going in there and throwing shit in the garage. I don't have even walking room in my garage in my head when I'm in active addiction. So now being able to learn from my mistakes, when I'm wrong, promptly admit it, right? Little things like that. Milan, you're a living, breathing amends. Like, we'll be on a podcast, he'll say something to Coulter, and then he'll, within 20 minutes, he's not even thinking about what we're talking about, and he slaps right at Coulter, like, I think that might have made you feel some kind of way, and I'm sorry, I have to say that right now. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I don't even know that that's happening in the time until I'll watch the podcast or something afterwards, and I go, man, that was amazing, because it worked in his life immediately. He's not like, I'm gonna wait till the podcast is ending or write it down. He just fucking did it, right, in a natural, organic setting, and that's a beautiful thing. He didn't have that. I know for a fact you didn't have that when you were using drugs, any of that.
No.
That thought process for you to do that for that man in that specific situation, because you felt he might have felt a certain kind of way, was beautiful, and so, man, it's little shit like that we fly right through that shit in active addiction, Jason. I did, those little things, those little times in life where like that you can do the right thing because maybe you did the wrong thing, was not there. It wasn't there for me, because my only focus was getting drugs because I didn't want to be sick and feel like I was going to die. Right. That was my one thing. So now my one thing today has to be the opposite of that. I got to work harder at this recovery thing than I did at my disease, because it's always behind there, man. That voice is always back there, and so my disease will never go away. I fully aware of that now, but I know it's a mental disease, right? And I gotta work on these things. I gotta take suggestions, man. The people that came into these rooms before me and just give me those suggestions, I've learned to take them, because the only ones I pay for are the ones I don't take, suggestions. And fuck, man, I just stay in the herd, man. I listen to people like Milan, people like that have a certain way about them that I want, and I just try to adapt into that way. And part of that is living by these things, having patience, living with empathy and not sympathy, right? Not just being sympathetic because somebody's in a bad spot and feeling bad for them, but actually putting yourself in their position and trying to empathize with them, and then acting accordingly with compassion and all these little things that we talk about. All these words we talk about, I didn't know any of these words. I knew them, but you would hear them because we're walking around in a painting. I feel like I was walking around in a painting in active addiction. I wasn't breathing the same air everybody else was. And now I feel like I am. and I'm even helping people out outside of these rooms because they're hearing just a general message, a way to maybe handle themselves in a situation that rubs off on them. And I'm not here to like be like, hey, you need to do this and act a certain way. No, it's just kind of like how we live today, Jason, and how others maybe act around us. As a reflection of that is what, man, that's the true hit right there. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
That was awesome. Jason, do you want me to reread the question as it is kind of lengthy?
Yeah, please. Thanks.
Yeah, so miracles do happen, and we're not the only ones who experience healing. Sometimes reconciliation is possible, but not necessarily on our own schedule or our terms. We practice forgiveness, patience, and acceptance. How has patience and expectations factored into your recovery?
Okay. Well, I guess I can go back. I don't know, like when I first came in, I really didn't have a lot of expectations because I didn't have a lot of hope. And I started to see evidence that this worked by going to some meetings and hearing similar stories to mine and observing that a lot of these people had pretty good lives and started out where I was, right? Um, so I started to get a little bit of hope and maybe the expectation that I could have a good life as well, right? And which took a lot of patience, like especially when I started to do the steps with somebody, right? Because let's say, like we finished step one and like I started to feel pretty good about it, maybe had a little bit of a spiritual awakening or an awakening of the spirit, I like to call it. And, so I wanted to get this done. Let's just go like straight to 12 and, and get it done with and everything's going to be great. Right. Which was pretty much a theme for my entire life. Like going from A to Z and skipping everything in between. And that never works out. Right. So I had to have a lot of patience and faith in the process. And then start to rebuild my life. I think like a good example, this goes back to 2007, and up until that point, the way I was living, let's just say I was kind of off of the grid, right? Like never had credit cards, never really had a job, never had anything in my name, and I had a job, like a construction job, which was building a house from the foundation, sort of on a labor crew. We could call it metaphoric. And, I wanted to get a cell phone, and I've had cell phones, like ever since they put out the brick, but nothing has ever been in my name. Right. So I had to put down a deposit and get a cell phone and get a, little flip phone, and get a phone number. And I remember like, a month later, I had to pay the bill. So I had to take a bus all the way there. And, I think the bill was maybe $80 or $100. I paid cash and I was so proud of myself, right? And I'm taking the bus back and I feel so great about it. I wanted to lean over to the person beside me on the bus and say, guess what? I paid my cell phone bill. Like that's just ridiculous, right? And I kind of caught myself and it's like, no, this is how it should be. There's no expectation from anybody that I should pay my cell phone bill because nobody gives a shit. But at that moment in time, that was a major milestone, right? That's probably one of the only like, I was very proud of it. And it's such a minor thing. It's like a nothing thing in society. That's just what you should be doing, right? And and then it just kind of built from there.
Yeah, but like we literally kind of have to learn how to be humans in society again.
Yeah.
Like we literally took it upon our job to be on the side of society.
Yeah, I think
I sat on the side and judged society so harshly.
Yeah.
Like and mocked things that now I find to be some of the greatest joy and serenity building inside my heart. Like I rolled into options, and like I even said earlier on this podcast, like I was just hoping, that I could be straight happy. And, so riding on no expectations but hope, a little bit of hope, this program has successfully shattered my expectations. I did not think, I did not think I'd be able to be straight. I did not understand what a surrender was. I did not think I'd be able to be straight and not be constantly having the compulsion to use. Like, I thought that recovery meant it was going to teach me how to fight that compulsion versus surrender to it. Like, I had no idea. Like, that entire expectation was boom, shattered the second my surrender was like alleviating me of that compulsion. And then it was like, man, I had no idea that we were going to go fighting my shame and guilt next after that and my anxiety. And it was like, boom, when my step 4 to 6 was like, oh, I was in tears for 36 hours of joy. Like, and this program over and over, like all knowledge, I see like an upside down pyramid. When I know one speck, then there's 2 above me. And then when I know 2, there's 4 above me. And it's like the further I get into this program, the more fascinated I am by all the directions that it can help me out in life. Like I literally would have bet you $1 million I would not have recovery fever 16 months ago. And now I'm burning up, man. I'm burning up, baby. Woo!
Yeah.
And like, but I recently, like, patience, never been a big fucking thing in my fucking, like, I was like, I'd like it now. And by now, I mean the moment I thought of it. So why aren't you delivering it before I can even tell you about it? Like I definitely impatient little baby, and came out of options thinking, ooh, pink cloud recovery, like, ooh, man, I'm so fucking awesomely evolved. And then I'm in a fight with my wife 3 hours later. Jerk face Milan came to town, and I was like, but I didn't give up, like, did I like that I digressed so immediately? No. But I did have the patience to dust myself off and get back up. And again and again and again. And that's been my fight, and part of the reason why I wanted to throw expectations in this first question was because it has been a real struggle this week. Like, one of the things that keeps happening to me right now in my life is that, oh, there's a meeting in 5 minutes that we're not going to. But anyway, one of the things that keeps happening in my life is I keep being given proof, like irrefutable proof, that life's plan is way better than mine. And every time I get pissed off or start to get a resentment building about an expectation that I've had about something, the resulting thing ends up better for my life. Like the like even today, right? Like today, I was supposed to have one podcast this morning, and I was supposed to have one podcast tomorrow. And tomorrow's podcast is the day before a trip. I would have done it. It would have been a bit stressful, but I was like, I'm squeezing this in because it's the only day Andrew's available. Well, boom, Caleb and Scotty cancel for this morning. Right? I managed to find Jason who is willing to do it. Right on, bro. I love that you slid in there like on short notice. Yep. And then I get a call from Andrew, and he's like, "Whoa, my day's switched." And I was like, "Okay, well, I got this."
Hasn't happened in a year. That hasn't happened in over a year. I have had the same days off for a year until yesterday.
So the thing is I wanted this to be a 3-person podcast. I like the dynamics of 3 or 4 people. I just feel like it carries energy wise in a different way. So now Andrew was available for this with Jason and I, and the one from tomorrow is today. So that gives me just all day tomorrow to be dealing with getting ready for my trip, like a lower impact, low stressful thing. And I was pissed off about that when it started to happen. Like I was just like, man, quit thinking you fucking know how it should be.
Like, as soon as you make plans, God's gonna hit you in the back of the head. Like, bro, I didn't go on vacation.
Yep.
I didn't go on vacation. You're not it, man. You're not it. Look, just let me take over. Just It's like, let this thing happen. I got this, right? I made this. Let me, we don't focus on what made this whole thing enough. We talk about a higher power and all that shit, but there's something else going on here, Jason. We're not all just here flapping our gums just because we don't want to die. Right? Like, yes, but there's something else going on here, right? There's other things involved here. Because look, we used to not be able to do anything not on drugs. Now we do everything without anything in our system, right? Clean. And we go through the hardships. Man, life sucks. Life sucks, but like, we get better at life if we choose to, right? If we choose to, and we can stay ahead of that curve, which we were completely behind that curve before. So I love that, Milan. That's beautiful. It's just a whole nother layer to it mentally, right? You can look, we can make ourselves miserable or we can make ourselves strong. It's the same amount of work. Think about that.
And I conversation I had with my sponsor 2 weeks ago. I'm like, I am being shown more evidence to be absolutely faithful than ever in my whole life, and yet I'm still looking for more evidence. And he's like, that's a good thing. No, he said, that's a good thing. He said, you want to have a certain level of serenity with how life is. He's like, but if you're not looking for that little bit more, then you're going to become complacent.
Love. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just that little bit more.
He's like, that is the state of a seeker, and a seeker's what you want to be in the program. You want to be a seeker of more knowledge. And if you don't have that little bit of discontent, then you won't do anything and you'll be sliding backwards.
On the other side, you got to taper that right at that level. You don't want to go too much into that too, right?
Well, no, because that would ruin your serenity on every current situation.
There's your 6 or 7.
Exactly. Yep. Boom, boom. Okay, so you could ask a question now to Jay, and we'll do a circle.
Awesome.
You got one?
Awesome. Yep. I do.
This is a great one, guys. I'm feeling really good.
Yeah, I like it.
Thanks for being here, both of you brothers, man.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So what are some tools now that you've gotten some, you're getting clean and recovery? What are some of your go-to tools and strategies that have been most helpful at managing those real difficult situations that you come across now that you're clean?
What are some coping strategies or tools?
Your go-tos, man.
Yeah, I think it's
I have a few people like it was suggested a long time ago that I have 5 people, like including or plus a sponsor, like 5 people that I can call at any time, right? 5 people that I trust, and that took a while to build up, and that list kind of changes as people come and go, but I do have my 5, and I'm sure I'm in some people's list of 5 because I always have my phone in my hand. I'm accessible and I always answer it, right? It's not something that I really use that much because maybe the way I was brought up, my age or something like that, I still can get into the headspace, well, I can take care of this myself, and real men don't cry,
Pride and ego.
The other, it's just instilled, and I remember I was in treatment for 2.5 months and they couldn't get me. Oh, we almost had him. He almost cried, and I would just fight it and fight it and fight it, and I still do that to this day, but I do have some people that I can trust and that I do talk to. And it's funny because I came up with some questions too. I pretty much have that exact same question. Okay, so we can cross that one out.
Yep.
2 for 1 on that one, man.
Strategies, I don't know, I've been sober for a while, and it's really not something that I have to think about because I know what to do, right? And knowing what to do and actually doing it can be 2 different things, right? And but over time, it's just something that happens automatically. Like the last year for me, it's been pretty stagnant. I really haven't done a lot for recovery or for anybody in this and that in life, just kind of goes on. And, and I, maybe about a month or maybe about 3 months ago, like I better pick this up here, so I started going to some more meetings, started going to some different meetings. But in the last couple of weeks, after Christmas, I really decided, okay, I need to pick this up and make some changes. So I started to get a little bit more involved in the home group. I got a new sponsor, started going through the big book of AA, like step one. And the next thing I'm asked to do this podcast. I'm going to chair the meeting for the next month. So all it is a decision, and followed by some action, and things, I wouldn't say they turned around, but things picked up very quickly, right?
Yeah.
It's there for the taking.
Would you say service work keeps you clean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's mandatory.
I love that. Thank you. I'm hearing this general theme that we keep coming into. Look, service work, guys, keeps you clean. If you're sitting back in the back of these meetings and not saying anything and not stepping up and not being part of like a home group and actually doing the chores, right? Not just taking up a room, but actually cutting the grass at that home group. Being of service, you're not gonna, this is the most dangerous spectator sport in the world. Right, it's not going to rub off on you, right? Like, it's not going to just rub off on you. So you got to get involved, and that even gives you more pride in yourself. Like it just makes you a different person, and it makes you feel different that you think about that meeting different, right? You hold yourself accountable to other people, just like you want them to be there to open the door when you get there, right? They want you to make the coffee when it's open. When they open it, you come in and make the coffee, and it gets you, even if nothing else, gets you acclimated to being a person again, like going to walk into a job place or into a store that right? We're not normal human beings. We're walking around like monsters, man, like caught in our own skin, right? Like that. But we talked about that Men in Black movie where you're like, these aliens are in this person meat suit and they're walking around like nobody thinks that they're aliens, and they're clearly aliens in meat suits, right? It's just, we're crazy when we're out there, so, but being able to look back at that now and say, hey, now that I'm reading through some of this literature, it's telling me I'm not responsible for any of that shit. Like, if you just read certain things, it puts a different spin, because I always thought that I'm going to be labeled a dick, just addict my whole life. But I'm told that I have no responsibility for that part of it, because I was in my disease of disease. So now that I'm in recovery, now it's on me. Now it's on me, and so now I got to take proactive steps, and I can't be relying on other people to I got to take steps to get into this thing, just like I did in active addiction. I was hunting people down for their numbers when I needed that drug. I was hunting people down. So now I'm in a group of not dope dealers, but hope dealers, right? I'll be sitting in a room and I want to not get somebody's number to save my life and not use, right? What's wrong with me? That's where my thought process goes as I was getting out of it, right? But then as you overcome those things, Jason, you talked about it, you're able to do them on instinct now. You're able to do them on instinct. That's the beautiful thing is, it took a few times to push through that. And then your mind keeps track of when you push through those times with goodwill or doing the right thing or helping that person out. And then it just happens naturally again, just like it happened the other way when we were using. It's happening in a great way now that our brains are like, shit, this is what it is. This is life, right? This is life. Recognizing the little spots in life that you can be grateful for, man. Like, everything was so catastrophic in active addiction, whether it's good or bad. If something were to go down where I was supposed to get my DOC or have something where it was around that, which everything was, and it didn't happen, that was the end of the world, right? Like shit was burning down around me and it didn't matter. And you think about it now, it's just another day. It's just another day, but there can be so many beautiful layers to that day, right? You can fill it with love and compassion and all these good feelings, or not, right, Milan, or not. But like, as you learn these things, we realize we could have had this shit all along. That's what I realized. I could have had all these things in my life all along. Now I'm making up for the fact that I didn't know how to love myself, and I shoot that shit. I just spread it like wildfire, because I'm told, man, if I don't, I can't keep it, and I love the way I'm feeling. So I got to give it out, right? That's how this crazy thing works. Is it's like the engine behind this thing that just runs. It runs this thing, you know. So it's beautiful. It reminded me
So
of that.
could you repeat the question for me, Andrew?
Of course I can. Yeah. So what are? Gosh, I'm a dummy because my thing. It made me think about that. That's a great point, Jason. So what are some tools? What are your go-to tools and strategies that have been most helpful in managing your real difficult situations now that you're getting clean?
So, for me, I would say running a tight program is first. Like getting my rest,
Yeah,
trying to eat right, exercising,
your
doing
basics.
doing my gratitudes in the mornings, like that which you focus on becomes greater. And, I'm sorry to say everybody, but I want to live a positive life. Don't knock me for my happiness because it's actually there. And, but it's been, an ongoing process of mine. There's this word that starts with A, has a couple C's in it. Acceptance. It's like changing my mindset to like I've gone through some tremendously difficult things in the last 6 months. I'm being able to step back, even if not the very first second, within a reasonable amount of time frame, and see where I'm not accepting, and how is that not serving me is a big thing. Like I say it all the time, but awareness is my first step to change. And if I can't see the situation clearly, I'm never going to reflect it clearly in my actions, you know? And it's really funny. I'm listening to this one book right now. It's called The Untethered Soul. It's a really, really good book. But one of the things that he talks about in this book, it's like about you have this energy flowing into you, right? And all these potential past experiences where they weren't positive, it's like
You're muted. You just muted just a second ago.
yeah, not even heavy trauma, but but just small things. They create almost like a crust around the flow into your heart of this energy. So it like narrows the aperture. And so it's like we close ourselves off from this energy flow when we don't clear out the shit in our lives. Well, I mean, and that to me, as soon as I heard him talking about this, I mean, that's a real reflection of this program. Like, like we're fighting with, first of all, being able to clarify our vision enough to see our wreckage of our past with our steps, right? In 4 to 6. And then, we're using amends to help get rid of those. Like we're trying to bring our energy flow clear again with the program. And, it's like learning how to not shut down your energy because of the rest of the world. Like the only thing you hurt by closing your heart at any point is yourself, and it's not a protective thing. Like it actually is just like a fallacy that you're like protecting your heart by closing it. It's like the more you can open it at those painful points is the more that you're going to have the beautiful energy to get through those things. And and it really starts with acceptance. Because without acceptance, you're going to keep running away.
Got to be open-minded. Got to be open-minded to it too, right? That's another thing we talk about too. As you were just talking about, also I was thinking about the open-minded.
But this is what this book taught me last night, dude, is acceptance and open-mindedness are the key for love to flow. Boom.
It's like the valves. It's like your valves to the heart, right? You talked about your heart, man. You talked about the heart thing and having that crust around the heart. And I'm sitting here, gosh, I love the way you explain things a lot, man. And because it makes me rethink. We're all visual people, right? And so when you say things like that, and I'm envisioning your heart, and then what do I think about the heart? My heart, love, right? Love starts everything. We were all made from love in one way or another. We wouldn't be here for love. And so everything starts at the core of love, the heart, service, posture of the heart. All this shit is connected to the heart. And then you're going to put, in active addiction, we close a lot of those entry points off, crusting that thing over. So
we have no acceptance. Our open-mindedness is at an all-time low. And so that stops that flow of energy into your heart, because it can't flow through your heart if you don't let it into your heart.
But think about it this way. Your heart is not being diseased, right? Like your heart comes back bigger when you stop using that mask comes off, right? That crust can come off around that heart, right? And I'm still thinking about it visually. And then we're able to actually take in everything that we're going through in a day, right? And we're able to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, the evil, the sick, the poor.
But just accept it.
And accept it, right? And then take in what we can use naturally, because we're soaking this shit. We're a sponge now, right? We're soaking this shit in. We've dropped the mask, dropped that crust. We're able to intake love because we didn't have it, right? We're able to soak that shit up. And then we're like, that's our superpower now, right? It fills up, and now we're able to just whatever it is, we have to spread it out. Like Milan,
it's like sauce on a Big Mac, man.
Exactly. And that shit is contagious. That shit is contagious. Look, it's like the common cold, man. I have to be enthusiastic about this program. And that leads into my answer with that is I have to stay enthusiastic about this program. Right. And
I got recovery fever.
And so do I. And it's these layers that can add.
I think Jason does too.
And Jason, you talked about the service and then being on the podcast. It just like keeps coming as long as you're doing the right thing. So I have got to lean into that and stay enthusiastic about this program. And I have to be in the same room as that to be able to appreciate that enthusiasm. Right. I can't just make it on my own. So, the opposite of our disease is connection and community. And so, and I've also been told the disease can't hit a moving target, right? You got to keep it moving. You got to keep it moving. There's a sniper in the area. We're keeping it moving. We're always at risk at any point to go out there again. So I've got to live in these feelings. I'm feeling these feelings because my heart has no crust now, right? Like I'm be able to feel that my every feeling that I feel goes back to that core, that heart, that spirit, that whatever you want to say it is, whatever it isn't, that's fine. We just want you here, but I'm able to feel that shit, and it is like it's life. That's life to me. That feeling is the core, like the essence of like what starts life. Do you see what I'm saying? Like what starts everything? And that's the start of like rising out of this thing, man. And as I think about it, right? Like, cause
it's the freedom rising in your recovery.
And it's how free do you want to be, Milan?
I pretty much like,
do you want to be?
I'm going to just keep climbing that pyramid.
My sponsor asks me this all the time, Jason, how free do you want to be? What's your answer to that question?
I'm free. I like.
Ooh,
that was I love that. So we ask people on here because it's a common theme. We're like, we'll be sitting here complaining or talking about something we got into, and then we go, well, it's really like, how free do you want to be? My sponsor asks me that all the time when I come to something, and then I can't even answer it. I'm like, yes, I guess I want to be free. Like I don't even know. It's an ongoing. You're
the first one who's given that answer, Jay. I love
it. Yeah, you're like I am. Let's go one day at a time. Come on. I love it. Awesome. With confidence, right? That's confidence. That's a man that knows he can walk into a situation and figure it out. He's been through shit. He's been through hell. And he's worked on himself, right? He knows confidence isn't I'm the man. It's walking into a situation knowing that
how can I help?
And being of service to the room, not who can service me. It's a whole different mindset. There's two types of people who walk into a room. One that's like, look at me, I need something. And then there's other people that walk in looking to make eye contact with the room. And how can they be of service? And how can somebody be of service to me? Because they're looking for the other person trying to make eye contact with them. And that's where the magic happens in life, man. That's where you can get places in life without all that. I don't know what I'm doing here, right? Connect with people, connection. Look people in the eye. Open the door for somebody. You might change their life. A simple act of kindness can change the world. Think about that. A simple act of kindness could change the fucking world. You never know how far your reach goes, man. Do something nice for somebody. Get outside yourself a little bit. Practice some compassion. It will change things. I don't know. That's where,
Yes.
being able to do that shit is so special to me, because I think I remember coming up, and as I was, I was I started using pretty early. It was one of those things where, as I was trying to lean into those good feelings that I was taught by my mother, and my father was not the best dude, but he still taught me great things. He was just a drug addict. And I don't fault him for that, but like I have to lean into these good feelings because I didn't had them, and I was learning them, and then I got cut off from that when I started using drugs, right? Like I remember even being early on in active addiction, still thinking about those good things, but then it's like at the end of the day, fuck, it doesn't matter. Those things really don't get me anywhere in my addiction because I'm not trying to go there. I'm not trying to go positive with it. I'm going to the substance, right? Which is just raping me of everything that I want to have on that positive side of this life thing, right? I'm just killing myself, and I'm kicking everybody else's ass around me. My family, my mom isn't sleeping, right? Like all that shit. We get so much back, and not only ourselves, but the people around us and our family. And my mother's been able to sleep for 3 years, right? Like that is priceless to me, right? That is so priceless to me. It calms that, that feeling also comes with some angst in some situations too. And when things like that happen, your mom sleeping for 3 years, that turns into a good feeling. Are you with me? That internal feeling about it, it's no longer anxiety. It's like you're being proud of yourself, and you're leaning into your program. You're doing the right shit because it's being validated. People around you see that you're doing the right thing. It's not that you're out there going, hey, look at me, man, I'm doing the right thing. You're just doing the right thing. Goodwill. Shit changes. You're making amends to yourself, right? It's a beautiful thing.
You got
I'm
a question
sorry.
for me, Jay?
Okay, here we go. Where should we start here? I came up with a bunch, but I narrowed it down here. Okay. How has your perspective on addiction and recovery evolved since you began your journey?
Okay, so repeat it one more time.
How has your perspective on addiction and recovery evolved since you began your journey?
Okay, so I think, and I've said this before, I think a big problem for me was I didn't know what addiction was. I just did not have an actual correct addiction definition of it. And that was a real stumbling block for me for like 17 years. Like I was still had a house, still had a wife who, through the power of her forgiveness, we were still together. Still had my
You're just
kids.
using drugs? Is it like I'm just using drugs?
Yeah, like
Recreationally kind of thing.
and it was just I did not see how my moments out of control meant the disease of addiction. Like, first of all, I never recognized it as a disease until treatment. And that is one thing that either you do or you don't. A good
You
example.
can't sometimes treat it as a disease and other times not. You can't.
Yeah, but like a good example is like my father-in-law and my stepdad have had strokes and they live here, right? And like that's kind of like a result of a coronary disease, right? Like you get a blockage in your flow, and shit happens. But what's happened to both of them is, there's some real psychological changes that have happened due to part of their brain not being there now, right? And you can be like, holy shit, he's an asshole today. Or you could say, holy shit, poor him, like he's really struggling with that part of his cognitive functions now. And and that's the grace also that either has to be there or not for addiction. Like it either is a disease or it's not. There's no part-time convenient when you want to be punitive to me about my disease, or when you want to be open-minded to me about it as a disease. Like there was a couple times since I've been home where, my wife and I were discussing something, and I had to be like, whoa, like, I'm like, stop for a second. I'm like, either this is a disease or it isn't. And if we're saying it is, then this is like what I have to do to work on it. And if we're saying it's not, then what am I fucking doing right now? Like, if it's not, then I got nothing to treat. Like then it's a mental weakness or whatever they call it, like a shortcoming.
And me believing what you
my-
say as a person, that I need to just help myself, right? There's
So-
no disease or no anything behind it for me to
Yeah.
validate it.
And so that whole mindset change has been massive for me on addiction. And then as far as recovery goes, I mentioned it earlier in this podcast, entering into this program, I had no understanding of what it was. All I thought was kind of culty, but way too much God for me to even care about.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like I was raised Catholic. I'm like God-phobic. And I don't care. Like, I don't care. Anybody who still like, I'm happy if that is great for you, but I can't use that word and still not have the connotations of something that isn't all loving and all caring in my life. So for me, it's like, I can't use that.
They should put that statement we had, that several, just a couple of sentences in there about.
Both of you right now, write out the word therapist. Right on a piece of paper. No, do it. If you have a pen right now, write out the word therapist.
Yes.
I know what you're getting at here.
I already
Okay.
know what you're gonna.
Yeah,
I hope
it says the rapist.
Yes, I've always thought that in my head.
And it's just like, once you see that, like, it's pretty hard, even if you've got the nicest therapist
Who
ever,
came
that
up
you're
with
not
that
going
word?
to see the rapist.
Where's the origin of that word,
Like-
therapist, and who came up with that word? I need to know immediately.
But like
That's crazy.
so
I'm
coming
glad I'm
into-
not the only one too.
Yeah. But like coming into recovery, I really had low expectations. I did. And it has continually blown my expectations. Like, what I see recovery as a way that actually everybody could live a better life. I feel like if you did it, if it was mandatory to do steps in grade 11 and 12 in high school, we would have a whole bunch of adults not carrying shit from their childhood. Like, to me, what I see recovery as now, as an opportunity that I'm never going to give up to keep working on myself. Like, when I have recovery fever, that fever is backed by a joy and a serenity I'm experiencing that I had no chance of getting before, that I had no tools to get before. And
it's undeniable.
The only way I got here was using these tools. So, like, is the program perfect? Not by a fucking long shot. Not by a long shot. And like, is it practiced perfectly? There is no perfect
Nothing's
practice.
perfect.
That's right. Well, no, your step one better fucking be perfect or you're out. Like, like, don't reservation me now. But
Nothing's perfect. Nobody's perfect. And nobody's
nobody's perfect. But my point is this: is it good enough? Is it good enough that I could call every single fucking day a win? Yeah, I am. And
perspective.
Yeah. And I'm really glad you asked this question, Jason, because I feel like it's been nothing but an unbelievable change on both for me, and I'm like, I'm proud to say I'm an addict in order to be living inside this program. And there's no other point in my life that I could even say the word with, like, I couldn't say it until 15 and a half months ago.
Bro, I feel like there's a time in our that, with me at least, that just for the simple fact that I did not want to say that I was a drug addict out loud, I would continue to use drugs for no other reason than I could not get over that hump.
It would seal. Like it was like putting the wax in the thing,
Yeah,
like the king stamp.
it's like the other side of that is hell, right? I'm gonna do everything because I don't want to go to hell. I'm not going to hell. I don't want to meet the devil. So I don't, it was everything outside that was
No,
completely
I knew saying I was an addict would ruin using for me. Like I knew it would. And I knew that, like, I knew I'm pointing upstairs because my wife usually is upstairs while I'm recording. Now, I'm not talking about, but
I'm
like,
looking, I'm like,
I
looking up
knew
where
the
you're doing.
second she heard me say that, I knew the second she heard me say that, I would never have a peaceful using time again in my life, too. Right? Like,
And everything else
True.
changes. Look, how's it going to affect my kids, my just everything? You think the world's going to burn?
no, but everything at that point, dude, was about me being able to continue using. That's the like that was the self-centered so
You were-
like I didn't like I really didn't care if she thought less of me. I just knew that she would allow me to use less. I knew that I would allow me to use less. Like it all affected my potential for using. So like that's really what that admission was keeping me from. Anyway, I'll let you answer Jason's questions now.
Yeah, so it goes into like we are welcome no matter what we believe. Milan, doesn't matter what we believe. We are welcome in this thing as long and it hits on a couple things like we don't need an army of friends and an army a recovery army to stay clean, Jason. We need belief in ourselves, belief in just something that's not us, that talks back hopefully, and then one other person, and at least I'm told I can stay clean and sober the rest of my life. And so the addiction part, my perspective, that was what you asked, what were my perspective on the addiction and recovery now.
How has that changed coming into recovery?
Okay. So addiction, obviously there's this stigma, right? On the disease of addiction and being a drug addict, and that it's, is it a disease? Is it not? Who knows that it's a disease? Who's not? Who's judging? Whatever it is. But there's this stigma, right? Because we see these commercials. Milan and I have talked about it a few times, where it's this humglum circle. Everybody's in this humglum circle. There's no lights on in the room, and we're all in an abandoned gymnasium, right? And we're all crying, and we're all still drug addicts, right? And we're all batshit crazy. That's not the way it is, man. You got a person chairing the meeting. You got people wanting to read the readings and fighting over the readings because they want to read so bad. Like you got newcomers getting carried around the room because they came back from a relapse. Like there's happy fucking people in that room.
I've never seen someone carried around a room, but I would like to.
Okay,
but I would like to.
Yeah. But
Jason's strong. He's been going to the gym. He can do it in our group.
Now that we've become adaptable and gone to these virtual meetings, virtually we carry people around the room in our home group. But we celebrate people and yell that, like, we shout that shit out and we pump people up, man. We welcome people home. We don't say welcome back. It's welcome home. Home is not a place. It's a feeling, right? Home is not a place. It's a feeling. I can go anywhere in the world and feel at home, right? For no money, and I can stay clean and sober while I'm doing it. And so it's a beautiful thing. So the perspective on this addiction thing, and there needs to be more of that redemption song on the front side of this addiction thing, in terms of like society and what they portray, because we're just kids. We're just seeing what's coming in and filtering it as we are, depending on how we were raised and those in all of our situations. Everybody's different. But as a whole, you need to be more positive on like, hey, because what I'm hearing is I'm not responsible for this addiction. That's what they need to put out there is, hey, don't get wrapped up in this. But if you do, because it's very easy to, this is what can come out of it. So there's some magical motherfuckers in this world recovering from the disease of addiction and alcoholism, right? There's people doing, as long as we're willing to move towards those dreams, Jason, we'll blow right through them things, man, most of the time, right? Because we didn't even know our limitations were so tight as an active user. We can be without limits now, man. That's love. Love is limitless, right? When we can feel that love, we're limitless. I don't have to think about getting into that love channel, man. If I love something or somebody or whatever I'm doing, it is not stressful to me. It's passion. Right. I'm not thinking about it. It's effortless. And so that's how we live life without compulsing about using drugs or fixating about something we shouldn't be. Are you with me? Does that make sense? And so the recovery, so that's the addiction side, because the addiction side, bro, we all have to go through hell to get to that point where it's like a fork in the road where you either need to, I'm either gonna be living up under a bridge, jails, institutions of death, whatever, or I have to go a different way with this thing. And depending on your spirit or wherever you're at in your life and your sickness and your disease, is where if you're able to recover, is to come out of this thing. And that's where you get into recovery, right? A lot of us find ourselves in inpatient treatment facilities. Hopefully a lot of people that come and go and can't and battle with relapsing, I find, haven't found themselves in those facilities a lot. There are some unicorns out there that come into the rooms and haven't been some kind of formally trained about this process, or at least in a controlled environment getting thrown this, because I did not like these rooms when I was in recovery. But bro, we talked your story earlier reminds me of it. When we are in treatment in that controlled environment, and they say this almost every day, your disease is right outside that door doing push-ups and pull-ups the whole time. Like Mike Tyson's going to be waiting for you as soon as you get out there, right? And you're like, you laugh because you're like, man, I'm getting 3 meals a day. I got my buddies in here, right? We're doing our thing. We played volleyball last night. You've got coffee and lemonade machine, and we get, as soon as that door, look, recovery, I walked out of recovery with a suitcase full of maintenance medication, and that painting that I walked out of 30 days ago hit me right in the face right when I got out of it, man. And I'm like, I'm 2.5 hours away from the area where I reside. I need to call this Medicaid taxi because I'm a fucking drug addict, and it's hot outside, and I don't have the right clothes on. Right. And I'm like I'm thinking about little things, and little things are hitting me. Like, you got home and you got one problem with your wife, and you went, oh shit, they were right. Like life is real. This is real. Shit's real out here. And so the recovery part of it, oh my God, as soon as you're able to, you got to surrender. I love how y'all were like, you got to do the first step. Perfect. Right. But yes, you do. You have to surrender. You got to let go. You have to let go of that ego and that pride, man. Got to let go of that shit. And then when you're able to do that, that's when you're able to get rid of all those excuses you've been coming up with. Shit, you always got an excuse for everything. An excuse that we're going to focus on the differences. I have an excuse for everything. As soon as you get on the other side of that surrender, you're able to embrace solutions to everything as they come in. If you're working on yourself, got to stay actively working on yourself. It's an active work in that recovery, just like it was active in the disease. And so what that reminds me is like, addiction is forever trying to meet the needs in ways that will never meet our needs. Does that make sense? Like, it close quote, right? And then so recovery is free, but it's not cheap, right? The price that we pay to get here, the degradation, the disrespect, the guilt, the pity, the self-hurt, lack of self-esteem, that is the price that we pay for recovery, right? And the shit that we went through and the pain that we went through. But now we have a program, some steps in our life that allow us to pause, step back and go, how's this going to affect my life, my job, my kids, and all that, and then make the right decision as a man or a woman going forward, and not be an asshole, right? Not be that guy that used to let, you're completely different, man. You change other people's lives by being kind to them and acting a certain way. They want to act like that too. And you feel that because you've never felt that shit before. And it's like exciting kind of, and then you just gain more confidence in every situation because you're like, damn, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing because people are reacting well to me and I'm not on drugs. Go figure. This is not a transactional relationship and that person's happy about what I'm doing for them. Come on, man. It's about being of service, which gets me out of that neighborhood that I can't get caught in, up here, and so this thing is so the recovery thing. I used to live in I don't know if you know about the triangle of self-obsession. I used to live in that resentment, anger, and fear. It's replaced with that acceptance, love, and faith today, man. And so, Jay, yeah, do you want to go ahead and answer your question now? Because that's kind of where I'm at with it on that. It was a great question, man.
All right. Well, I'll just repeat it anyway. How has your perspective on addiction and recovery evolved since you began your journey? I don't know. I think I'll just go back on that one. When I was still in treatment, like a change of perspective. I could even equate it to another spiritual awakening, right? Basically what it is. I remember we were doing the steps, or I started writing the steps, and this treatment place, sort of had its own steps. And and there's a lot of questions, and it seems very redundant to me. I didn't know what the point of it was, and it was just like, but it was just something that we had to do. And I wasn't getting anything out of it. And but there's this guy that came in after me, and he didn't say much, and he was super depressed. He was like despondent, and nobody could really get to him and get him out of his shell, but we had to write steps, and he started writing it, and slowly this guy started coming alive, right? And other people noticed it too, and we'd have discussions in the morning. And one morning, he was just kind of up, and he was excited about writing the steps, and it's like, well, okay, well, what's going on? Like, what is happening here for you? And he says, like, writing the steps, and like, this is amazing. I get to learn about myself. And I heard that, and I was just like, holy shit. So that totally changed my perspective, like that one line. So I went into it with that and started getting benefits out of it, right? And then skip to a couple months later, after I get out and I'm hanging out at meetings and this and that and trying to fit in, and everybody's kind of new, and I still have this old ego and some of this bravado from the street and this and that, right? And one of these statements that I used to make, and I hear people say it now, right? People that are new, and sometimes I'll say something and sometimes I won't, right? But I used to say, like, well, I should be dead. The way I used and how badass I was, I should be fucking dead. Right? And I guess somebody got tired of that and said, no, you should be alive.
Obviously, because you are.
And that turned it around like instantly too, right? Like a lot of little things like that happen. And I used to not like the idea or carry around the shame, and not like to say, I was uncomfortable saying, my name's Jason, I'm an alcoholic, or my name's Jason, I'm an addict. I didn't like that label, right? I just didn't like it, and I do what I need to do today to keep that anonymous, in certain places, because I felt like a liability for a long time. And, I don't really feel like that anymore, and that was a longer process of, to change that perspective on myself. It goes back to what we were speaking about before, and to change that perspective was being able to forgive myself, right? And that has been a long process. It's still in process, that took a couple years to be able to forgive myself, and the amends that I make to myself, like the living amends are ongoing, for myself, for others, and just in life in general. Yeah, that's all I have right now.
Would you agree that making a living amends, part of that is trying to maintain that goodwill, right? Like doing the right thing when, regardless anybody's looking.
Oh yeah,
like it allows you to make amends to yourself without even knowing it, right? You're doing the right shit, so you're like, man, I am a good person, right? I'm not an asshole.
Yeah, it's been a while, so it's something that's kind of automatic now, right?
It's beautiful.
That's really, like building new habits in life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this next question, Andrew, I thought of you specifically just because you like the LOVE word.
Yes, don't
Okay,
shy away from it,
for
guys.
those of us with long-standing patterns of painful relationships, it can be surprising to notice the number of long-term, loving relationships that we have in the fellowship. Love sneaks up on us. The very fact of that love and its undeniable presence in our lives does its own quiet work, healing the wounds that nothing else seems to reach. So, my question is, how has love sneaked back into your life? And what was the greatest surprise it gave you in recovery?
Bro, my body feels different since before you asked that question. Uh, I and y'all laugh because you know it's true. Look,
Woo!
love is everything. Love. How long do we got? Is it a 3 hour podcast? 3 hour podcast? So look, I'm gonna break it down for you, Mr. Jason. Love is everything to me. I've realized looking back, uh, my mother and father raised me with a lot of love, right? My father was not the best dude in the world. They split when I was like before I was 1 years old. My father went completely one way, my mother went the other way, and has always felt some kind of like she didn't do the right thing, whatever, because she wasn't able to hold on to that. Regardless, my mother was so compassionate, so loving growing up, but I wasn't able to see that until I got clean. I always knew that and I was living that because I'm just like a machine, a robot, just living on how other people say that they are with their mothers and those feel right. Like we're almost acting as if when we get into that, when we're in that cloud in the grip of addiction. And so the love piece is everything to me. It's love is limitless, it's openness, LOVE, virtuous, and it's expressiveness, right? Having high moral standards, being able to express yourself in a way. Love is a form of intelligence. It is also the most powerful drug in the world, Jason. Think about that. There's not a drug I've ever used in my life that I haven't been, when I'm in love or in that love space, especially clean from substances. The feeling of love trumps all that shit. All of it. All of it. And so I don't have to think about getting into that love lane and that love channel, right? And so um I I I now know that I've had love and was given love and shown love from a very, very early age. I was not shown that until I got into these rooms and I had people in the room sit me down and go, look, please do not leave 5 minutes before the miracle happens and let us love you until you learn how to love yourself. And that didn't make any sense to me until I would go back like the next day, and then they would be so grateful to see me back. And they would give me a hug and be like, man, Andrew, it's so nice to see you. And I'm like, what Andrew are you talking about? I know it's not me. I'm not doing anything right. And they were just loving me because I showed up the next day. So just the common basic simple appreciation of a human is that beginning of that, like bro, I love you, man. Like it's not about like, hey, I love you, bro. Like I love you, drive safe, I'll see you tomorrow, right? And there's a compassion to it. There's a When you talk about loving somebody or something, or having love, or when you love something that you're doing, you don't have to define it or try to explain yourself. Does that make sense? Because you're acting in the highest standards that your body can make. Does that make sense? Like those feelings of love are so limitless that they really just trump all the other thought processes. But when you're living in that love lane, which is the most powerful spiritual principle of all of them, hands down, I will not argue with you on that. There's not one.
Acceptance.
No, no, it's close. It's close. Honesty says they're close. Love is the most powerful. The most powerful. It is also, Jason, one of the only two that we can give each other. Hope and love. Those are the only two spiritual principles that we can give it to each other. That's why this thing works, because we come into these rooms and we are able to give the most powerful one, love, which is why we are all here in the first place. We would not be human beings if it wasn't for love in some one way or another. Our parents loving each other enough to whatever the whole, even if you were a test tube baby, there's some love going on there. you're here because of some kind of form of love, right? And so, bro, love, when I finally was able to feel that love and then realize that I was giving it my whole life and tap into what has been caged up inside of me forever. Tell him, Milan, there is nobody that gives out more love at these meetings than me.
Nobody.
I hands out it, and it's in a way where like I appreciate you being here, and I love you because you told me you loved me when I got here, and I'm fully aware now that I'm not going to keep this shit if I don't give this shit to you. You know, just very cut and dry. So some people, we all have our roles in our meetings and in our service positions and our things. Some of us are really good at service. Some of us are good at carrying a message. Some of us are good at the coffee thing. Some of us are good at showing up early to get the doors open. And so my thing is love, man. Love and remaining humble and teachable. And so once I was able to tap into my love channel, I build every day on it by giving it out like it's going out of style, man. I give that shit away like I got a super soaker full of it, don't I, Milan? At all times, I got a double barrel shotgun full of love and
it's more like a fire hose.
It is a fire hose, and it might get uncomfortable for people, right? But it was uncomfortable for me when I got in, and then it turns around to like they do love me, right? And I am a part of when I've never felt a part of before. When we get into these rooms, maybe it's the first time we've ever heard "I love you" and I appreciate you being here. Maybe in our lives, some of us haven't been appreciated for shit our whole lives. You know, and so to come in and to give somebody hope and love, being able to give them that, right here, like you haven't had any of this for a while, let me give you an appetizer and a full course meal of love and hope. And look, come back tomorrow and let's try this thing again. You might have been uncomfortable, you stayed the whole meeting, you shared, I know you feel better, you're in a spot where you probably don't want to say that to me, just come back tomorrow. And it gets more easier, right? And then you become part of a community when you've been part of what? Running from the law and stealing from your parent. Like, that's no community. That's a community of one, being just diseased up, right? Again, I'm not responsible for that. That's so important. You're not responsible for that shit. We don't have a moral deficiency. We're not assholes. We're not making this decision because we were born dicks. And I'm sorry about my language because I'm kind of a mouthy dude. I hope you're okay with that, Jason. It's just one of those things, man. I love. I what do you say? I am so pumped up for recovery. The one thing
I got recovery fever. You got love fever,
bro, and it's contagious. It's contagious. There's my being. It's contagious. It's the common cold. It's staying enthusiastic about my program. And staying fluent with Milan, how that shit happened yesterday. And then he called me, he's like, hey, I got one going in the morning. Does that mean you're off tomorrow too? Since we were able to fix the world anyways, let's see if we can do this. And I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. It's like another meeting to me. We're doing a podcast instead of the meeting that we always go to every morning. Love to. And it's how this thing works, man. You know, we're always looking for reasons to not do shit in addiction. I'm looking for reasons to do good shit now. Right? Love it. It's how I stay pumped and drive and driven and not self-obsessed and woe is me and fuck the world, you know? I'm like, I love the world. And when I love the world is not, the world has, bro, we're nothing of a nothing of a nothing in this world. We are a speck of a speck of a speck of a speck of a speck. And so if we think we're going to come out here and change the world, you're crazy as hell, man. You're crazy as hell. Lean into the love, the little things, what make you feel good inside. That's your world. That's my world. That's my world. And then I can live how I live. And then people, if I'm helping some people by living that way and showing them that they can love themselves too, bro, that's what I have to do today. I got to do it. I don't question that. I'm doing it. I'm doing it, right? You're not stopping me. And no one wants to stop me. They did. People, and then the avenues line up, not the blockades, the avenues line up. When you get in that channel and you're giving that shit out and you're being of service to other people and yourself, those avenue streams open up with more of that outside of the program even. Does that make sense? Like, that's how I see it. And so if I'm always on that constant uptake, like even if I get hit from the side every once in a while, I'm making mistakes. At least I'm trying, but I'm still on that up track. And I've got all my plates spinning. I'm not just relying on one thing. This job is my whole life, and if I lose it, I'm gonna just go kill somebody, right? Like, that's not how. I'm not diseased up anymore, man. I'm not in that fog. I'm not in the grip. I'm in the group now. I have adapted this program to my life, not tried to adapt the program, my life to the program. Anyways, yeah. So that part.
Nice one. And Jason, do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, please.
Okay. For those of us with long-standing patterns of painful relationships, it can be surprising to notice the number of long-term, loving relationships we have in the fellowship. Love sneaks up on us. The very fact that love and its undeniable presence in our lives does its own quiet work healing the wounds that nothing else seems to reach. How has love sneaked back into your life? And what was the greatest surprise it gave you in recovery, Jason?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of that. I don't know. I just like to kind of tell stories, right?
We love to hear them.
Like on, I know my experience and see how that relates. Okay, I'd say like when I got my life together, well, actually, I'll back up a bit. Like, I've always been close with my family, right? But when but in addiction, for the most part, I was just absent, right? I'd go for months, or like without speaking to anybody, right? So, when I got sober, that seemed to give the rest of my family like lives. Like they were able to carry on with their lives, without worrying about me all the time, right? And the self-centered nature of this disease, I had no idea that like how much it affected people's lives that loved me, right? And I think right or not too long after I got sober, my mom started running. Like training to do marathons and half marathons. And I remember at one of her first half marathons, and I was probably about 6 months sober. And I think it was, it was like a Valentine's Day marathon. And I, went there, and I had one of those little chocolate things that, looks like a heart. And I was waiting for her at the finish line, right? And looking back, like my only, like I didn't have any motive. The only reason I was doing that was out of love. Right. And, that was quite some time ago, and she still talks about it today, and then she qualified for Boston,
Really?
Yeah.
That's huge, man.
Yeah. She's
It's a big deal.
Yeah, she ran, she started when she was about 65 and she's 80 now. And
Woo.
Hey, quick side note, Valentine's Day is my mother's birthday.
Yeah.
That is it's beautiful, man. That is that's a beautiful story, man. I love that.
I went to Boston and met her at the finish line there, right? And I think she did Boston 7 times. We went there a few times, and after the third time,
you think about this, Jason.
Another
that first marathon,
New York, Berlin.
Bro, she's a beast. She's awesome. That's awesome.
I don't know. There's lots more examples, but I can't really think of any right now. And then there's examples of self-love too, right? And I had a hard time getting my head around that. It took a while to be able just to even grasp the concept that I would be able to love myself, right? And I was kind of getting there. That's one of the reasons why I quit smoking. Like I love smoking cigarettes. I had no plans on stopping
Me too.
smoking. And I had a girlfriend that suggested I quit smoking out of self-love. If you love yourself, you should quit smoking. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's, that kind of makes sense, and it maybe, when it sat there for a while, it festered. A couple months later, I quit smoking.
Jason, you might have just helped me flip the switch on me quitting smoking, man, because
Yeah.
Because
like it's
You
a
really
different
let
look.
yourself quit smoking.
You're essentially challenging me and saying,
challenge
look,
is
bro,
love.
you don't
Yeah, there
look,
you
you're the love man. You don't even love yourself
enough
if you
to
don't
quit
quit
smoking.
smoking.
how can you say you love yourself?
Jason,
No.
you might in about in a month or two, we might have to have you back on because I might have to be
Oh,
carrying
it's
you
gonna
around this
stick to you.
room because you might have given me that internal fortitude to
Yeah,
move
I'm
forward
sure
in this thing because I hate myself unless I stop smoking cigarettes. Bro, I love
I
it.
believe the glove just slapped your face.
I need a break. We need a break. Oh, I can't even do this right now. I'm sweating right now.
There you go, man.
Thank you, Jason. Look, this is the shit we're talking
You
about.
might have
here,
just
man.
saved his life, Jason.
Look, because I have gotten to the point where, so I came out of treatment. Look, I didn't even smoke cigarettes until I got into treatment. And the only thing we did in treatment was smoke cigarettes. Like that got me through. I had smoked back in college, right? But you smoked cigarettes religiously in treatment. Some treatment facilities don't allow you to. This one did. So we did. So I came out of there with a smoking addiction, right? But off drugs. In my mind, so I was able to get off the Suboxone, the maintenance medication. So cigarettes have been my like maintenance drug, right? They've been my like, I need to stop them. At my 1 year, I had it in my mind that I was going to stop at 1 year, but when I made that decision, it was so close to the 1 year that I was like, that's not going to happen, right? And it gets to like 2 years. Yeah, and so now I'm at this point where I've done some step work and stuff about it, and I know I'm willing. I'm at that willing where I know I'm willing to do it. Right. And
I got another tip for you about quitting smoking.
Come on.
When you stop, don't tell anybody. Just stop. Nobody will even fucking notice.
Bro.
If you stop, nobody.
I'm right. Oh my God. Oh my God.
And that's it.
Man, I want to give you an in-person hug right now, Jason.
Don't tell anyone. Basically, like
don't tell anyone, and you don't love yourself, and don't tell anyone. That's I have to live
air.
By that.
The gauntlet is thrown. The face is slapped.
Anyone. Don't
Mr. Love, show us your love for yourself.
Hey,
Mr.
Jason,
Love.
I don't even care about what the topic was going into what just happened. This is the topic going out all the way out, right? I'm just kidding. Look, hey, thank you, brother. Thank you, man.
You're welcome. And we're
this is why this happened. This is why Milan. This is why I was off.
I said
today
this podcast heals the hosts.
Yeah,
hey,
it's a host healing tool.
You don't think there's something else going on other than us, man? Well, you're crazy as hell.
Okay, so love. Like I thought there was a whole lot of love going on in my life, and it was really just a whole pile of intolerance, dishonesty, and delusions. Like love sneaked back into my freaking life. Like it sneaked pretty boldly back into my life. It wasn't as sneaky as
it's an incurable disease, though. Once you get
where it sneaked into my life was that I thought I had a reasonable opinion of myself, and I didn't. I really didn't. It was there was a lot of shame and just not a lot of faith in like at the end in my ability to be a good person. Like there was so little faith that I would do the right thing that like I just that it caused me a lot of anxiety about the future. And it really took the clarity of the surrender and the steps for me to even start to think that I was something that could be lovable. Like I said, the 2 weeks that I was detoxing at home before I went to treatment, like I don't think my wife said a full sentence to me, and my daughter just kind of did whatever little curt necessary replies. Like they were like, "You're out unless you go," So like that didn't reinforce like, "Hey, I'm getting clean. Everyone's gonna love me." Like that was not the feeling when I left. My mom said she loved me, and but that was she was pretty blindsided by my addiction. She just didn't see it, like I was, really good at hiding it from some people.
Mother always loves his child. Mother always loves her kids.
Yeah, like certainly more than the wife and the daughter did at that point. And, it's been a slow road into love. But, like the thing that my sneakiest love is my love for serenity that's come. I never thought I would have that 6 or 7 blissfulness.
You love the number 6 and 7 more than you ever have in your life.
I've always loved 7. 7, 2, and 7 are my favorite numbers.
Yeah, but now 6 and 7 puts a whole.
I know 6 had nothing fucking to do with me. 6 was someone else's number.
6 is so dope.
But man, a good 6.66 repeating, I would be happy, to be 2/3 of serenity forever. But and that was for sure for me the greatest surprise inside my recovery was that there's moments that are just not what I used to search for, and I'm like, holy shit, this feels good right here. Holy shit. I'm when I do a little my little moral inventory lying in bed, and I'm like, what? I could live this day forever. Yeah. I never had I could live this day forever earlier in my life.
So Groundhog Day, bring it on. Let's do it.
Yeah, a song like this, feeling in shape like that, walking my dogs, coming on a meeting, boom, look at changing someone's life with service, and repeat.
Having my emotions move to tears, having a good dream at the end of the night, waking up and remembering the dream.
I could cry a little bit more. If I got a desire in life, it was great at the beginning of recovery. But I feel it's few and far between now. There's still some stigmatism inside myself.
You're on the come down. You're on the come down from those initial tears. Look, you're going to get back into those tears. There's another round coming, Milan.
I honestly, that call from that lady last night almost made me cry. Pretty close to, and
yeah,
I would say. Okay, so I think we got time here for you to ask another round of questions.
Yeah, I got a great question.
I've got 24 minutes. I got a session with a sponsee, but
let's do it.
Let's fill it up.
Let's do it. And I wanted to say to wrap up that last part, Jason, tell me if I'm wrong. We cannot hate our versions into us. We cannot hate ourselves into a version of ourselves that we can love. We got to love ourselves. You got to love yourself, right? Yeah, we've been hating on ourselves for too long. So that wraps that one up. So listen, guys, I'll ask Jason first, right? That's where we're going. Besides stopping whatever addictive behavior or substance you were using, what is the most beneficial change you have made in your life since beginning recovery?
Well, learning to love myself. Of course. I don't know, the most beneficial change. Yep. I don't know. I think what? The most beneficial change.
You think about you stopped using, and then what is the most beneficial thing that you've gotten from getting clean and staying sober?
Well, I would say, pertaining to recovery, the ability to relate to people, right? I'm looking forward to chairing the meeting next month, because that way I get to know who everyone is, right? And then people get to know who I am. And, there's kind of a script that goes along with it that goes with chairing the meeting, but I can kind of put my own spin on it, whatever that's going to look like.
Oh, well, it's going to look funny.
Yeah. And and I tend to light people up, right? We were talking about the pink cloud before, right? And I see people, it's usually people in early recovery, I'm on the pink cloud and this and that, and everything's great, but they expect it to end. When is this going to end? And I'm like, well, it doesn't.
Not if you're working it.
Stop talking about it.
Yeah,
just let it go. Let it ride.
I've been sober for 6 years, and 95% of that time I've been on the pink cloud.
Brandy says she's
If
on the
you get on it,
fluorescent pink
stay
cloud.
on
Get on the fluorescent pink cloud with me. You're on that
Yeah.
little baby pink cloud. Get on this really pink one. This really pink one up here. Come on.
Yeah, like ride that cloud. And you know, I did get the phone number that or the connection to whoever does the H&I, you know, like the detox panels and this and
Yes.
that. And we used to do that quite a bit.
Bless your heart. Thank you for your service. Look, H&I think is one of the most highest forms of service aside sponsorship. It was the only thing that gave me hope when I left the treatment was H&I. So thank you for that. I really, every time I hear somebody being of H&I, I have to stop and be like, thank you. Seriously.
Yeah, it's an awesome thing to do. And you know, because especially going into the detoxes, right? You know, like because people are just fucked, you know, and they're sitting there, and you know, and life sucks and this and that. But you know, I'm pretty good at getting through to people. You know, I you know, by the end of the session or the end of the meeting, like most people are pretty lit up, right? And then once in a while, I will run into somebody in a meeting, right? And they'll come up to me and they're like, "Oh, hey, you're Jason," you know, and I have no idea who they are, right? But you know, and they said, "Oh, yeah, like I heard you speak of the detox, and I really heard something in this and that, right? You know, and that's the reward for me. That's
the hit. That's the hit, Jason.
Yeah,
that is the hit, right? You used to run from those people. Are you Jason? No, I'm not. You know, someone came up to me in active addiction and asked me if I'm Andrew, and I didn't know that. Fuck no, I'm not Andrew. You got the wrong guy, right? Because I either did something wrong to them or owed them money or something. Now you're like, yes, I'm Jason, right? Because you know it's good shit. You've been doing good shit, man. I love it.
Yeah. So that turned, you know, like what I was talking about before, how I always felt like a liability, you know, like now I feel like an asset.
It's crazy. It's awesome. What do you think, Milan?
That's for me.
What do you think, Milan?
Okay, repeat the question, but I'm pretty sure I remember it for once, actually, but it's okay.
Yeah. So besides stopping using your substance, what is the most beneficial change that you've made in your life since beginning recovery?
So I'm going to say I've gained a life purpose. Like, you know, my life really didn't have a direction or a purpose. And, you know, through my extensive step work and trying to learn, like, my life's goal is the learning of acceptance now. And I like, it is endlessly rewarding every little bit of greater acceptance I get. And so for me, having a solid life purpose right now is really something that I never gotten to experience before.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. You want me to answer real quick? Because I know we're trying to finish.
Oh, no, I want you to answer.
Okay. You want me to do a jig while I do it?
Like, and if you answer quick, we might even have time for one more of Jay's questions. Quick.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So
this is called the rapid fire round.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rapid fire recovery.
And I'm such a squirrel brain. I got to read my own question again because I just besides stopping using, what is the most beneficial change? Wow. So
I know what you're gonna say.
But the ability to love. So it's that, but it's being able to God, feel compassion and feel somebody, you know, when somebody comes on here and shares honestly, they say, oh, that honest sharing in our meetings is the antidote to our disease thinking. So when somebody comes on and says their story or comes on and they're crying, it's their first day in, it's my medicine today. I feel so connected. It allows my heart to connect with theirs. And I don't even, I almost don't even listen to what they say. I feel what they say, Jason. I have this ability to feel other people's emotions and try to channel and connect my heart with theirs, right? I can hear them sharing, and then I can naturally have my body have a way to try to help them as a compassionate individual and come back and feel that and love that feeling and know that I'm always doing that. Like I'm always going to stay connected, right? Like it's such a flip from where I was, right? Because it's the polar opposite of my mindset before, even though I thought that's where I was going before, right? I thought I was getting there because I was always on drugs, whatever. Now I am spiritually rich, man. I was bankrupt before. I can tap into so many good feelings right now at a dime, and know that if I'm not, like, I'm gonna feel that I'm not, right? Just that simple goodwill, having the ability to choose, make my decisions is just been priceless to me. So that's just what came off the top for me with that,
Beautiful.
because kindness is not an act, it's a reflection of your soul. I could be kind today to somebody. You know what I mean? All right, go ahead before we take a question.
Okay, Jason, I think we can squeeze one more in. You asked me.
I think I have the perfect one to wrap this up.
Okay.
What advice or insights would you offer to someone just starting their recovery journey?
Okay. I would definitely say be open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
Really look for reservations inside your concept of powerlessness. Like really dive deep on that and see if that's worth holding on to versus your life. And do the work of the steps. Do not hesitate. Do not delay. Do not prolong your first step of steps. Like I would rather a shakily done first set of steps than somebody just delay and never get to that relief. And that's it. And also that I love you.
Okay. Yes. And so I'll piggyback on the steps. And what did the steps stand for? Solution to every problem solved. And look, if you're not using the steps, Jason, you're nuts. You're not using the steps. Come on. You're nuts if you're not using the steps. Right. So you got that. What my answer to that would be,
I'm writing that down.
And I want to be a little more specific with this, because being open-minded and goodwill and all that stuff is great. I think one of the most important things and aspects of early recovery and staying in that group is getting a home group, some kind of group that you feel at home at. Get into a group. Don't just go to the first meeting and try to tough it out in that meeting because even though you don't feel a certain kind of way. Attend a lot of meetings until you find that group that you feel some kind of way at. Start attending that group and make it your home group. We don't talk about this enough. A home group will keep you clean, right? They will get you into service. They will make you accountable. You'll want to show up for that person. When somebody is missing in my home group for a couple of days, we go looking for them. Not like, we ask around and if I'm gone for a couple of days, they're sending the police to my house, man. They're like, shit. Well, and that's a beautiful thing. That keeps you accountable and keeps you in the herd, and get you away from those edges. So I think that's one of the most important things that I don't think a lot of people talk about. Don't just go to meetings and be a meeting goer, right? And a step go be a part of the home group of your sponsor or somebody that you want to be a sponsor, or go to somewhere attractive to you and you feel good and you feel at home at. Again, home is not this building I'm in. It's not the place. It's a feeling. Right. That's a different flip of you got to feel home there. So then you'll want to cut the grass and do all the other chores and not just take up a room and lock the door and not be social. Right. So I think getting a home group is key, because there's so many people in that home group and they're practicing traditions and you hear so much shit, and then you have to go to their meetings. Right. It's a whole snowball effect of good by going to meetings. Meeting makers make it, man. Meeting makers make it. My home group name is NA Meeting Makers. How about that? So I think that's just a super underrated thing, that if I would tell somebody coming in here and you're starting to come to these rooms and you're like, I don't really get it, well, go to a different meeting until you start feeling a different kind of way, because it's going to happen. Do 90 and 90, it'll work itself out. You'll find that group in that 90 and 90. So that's kind of my answer to it. And so look, hey, you can either be miserable, we can make ourselves miserable, or strong. Remember this, it's the same amount of work. You choose. I'm done. So.
Okay, Jay.
Yeah. Okay.
I love you guys. This is
to new people. Like, I always think it's funny. Like somebody will show up to a meeting, or there'll be new people in meeting, and And you might wonder, or they might, or I might wonder what I'm doing there, right? And I remember somebody saying like, well, if you're sitting in a meeting and you think you got a problem, you probably do, right? And there's really no other reason to be there. And well, actually, I have known other people that I don't know, that's a whole other story. But
some of us are sicker than others, right?
Maybe like take the suggestions, but try not to take things personally. I went to a meeting once, and this is quite a while ago, and actually I can back up a bit. I should say that it doesn't matter. Like if you have like 1 day or 10 years, I think everybody has a voice, right? I think everybody should be heard. Like a lot of the time I get more out of somebody speaking that has 30 days clean, right?
Jason, if you woke up before me today, you have more clean time than me.
What's that? Yeah.
If you woke up, that's what I tell people in meetings. Look, like it's don't do this whole like bigger than like with the clean time. That's just for peace of mind, like with the family and our peace of mind. But if you woke up before me, bro, you have more clean time than me today. And let's move on to tomorrow. If I wake up before you tomorrow, I might have a little more clean time than you tomorrow. Let's go to the next day.
Well, most people have more clean time than me because I like to sleep in. Today.
That's cool. I love that. Me too. I'm the same way. My work doesn't start till like 11 in the morning. So like I'm like that sleep in kind of guy too.
I wake up at 3:30 and it's like, you are insane.
Hey, you're staying clean doing it though, right?
So yeah, everybody's been clean longer than I have. I don't know. I would just say take the suggestions, and for the first year, just overdo it. Like just do everything. Just get into it.
Get uncomfortable. Get grimy.
Just go hard.
Yeah, and you're gonna get beat up, but you're just trying, right? Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
That works.
It does. That's the most important thing, Jason, is it fucking works. Look, that's the most important thing about it. Done.
But I believe that everybody has a voice. There's this one guy in our business meeting last night that wanted to do service work, right? And we weren't sure, or like didn't really know like what the clean time requirement was, right? And the guy has the desire, he's there, and it's not like handling money or anything like that, so who gives a shit? The desire's there, we'll take a vote, yeah, you're in. Because if you tell somebody no, I don't think it's a good thing, because they're not going to feel
all their dealers are saying yes.
Yeah. Like I'm not good enough to be, so if somebody asks for help, no matter what, you say yes. Like,
I'm gonna finish on this. I didn't get clean just to be miserable. Come on, man. I don't want to be miserable anymore. We don't get clean to be miserable, man. Love what you're doing. Get into something that you feel good with, man, and ride that shit out, man. And don't use no matter what.
I want to say that I love you guys. Thank you both for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
I'm super grateful,
Jason.
And
appreciate it, Jason.
Everybody out there, tune in next time for more recovery fun. See you later, everybody.
Love you guys.
I love you. Please help us help others. If you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.